The soul is eternal, and death is merely a transition. Each new life is a return to complete what we began in the past. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The concept of reincarnation or rebirth in a new body is one of the most fascinating and controversial topics in philosophy, religion, and science. It refers to the return of the soul after death to a new life in another body. Historical records and famous cases of reincarnation. Cases documented by Ian Stevenson. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist and professor at the University of Virginia, was a pioneer in scientific research on this subject. He studied over 3,000 cases of children who recalled memories of their past lives. His research highlighted the following. Accurate details. Children provided precise details about people, places, and events related to their alleged past lives. Physical marks. In some cases, children who claimed to have experienced injuries in their past lives were found to have congenital birthmarks corresponding to those injuries. A famous example. Shanti Devi, an Indian girl, vividly recalled her past life as a married woman and identified her family members with remarkable accuracy. Shanti Devi and her reincarnation story. Shanti Devi was an Indian girl whose story is one of the most famous reported cases of reincarnation in the world. Born in 1926 in Delhi, she drew significant attention from a young age due to her extraordinary claims about her past life. Shanti Devi's claims. At the age of 4, Shanti began speaking about her past life. She claimed that she was a woman named Lugdi who had lived in Mathura, a city about 145 kilometers from Delhi. Shanti stated that in her previous life, she was married to a man named Kedarnath and had died shortly after giving birth to her child. She described intricate details about her house, lifestyle, and even family relations from her previous life. Initially, her family dismissed her statements as mere imagination, but over time, they began to take her words more seriously. Investigations into Shanti Devi's case. Shanti Devi's story quickly gained public attention and drew the interest of researchers, psychologists, and even government officials. Mahatma Gandhi, the leader of India's independence movement, also took interest in her case and appointed a committee to investigate her claims in Mathura. During these investigations, Shanti accurately described the house where she claimed to have lived in her past life. She recognized members of Kedarnath's family and provided specific details about their lives that only Lugdi could have known. She even identified the location of money she had hidden in her previous life. Kedarnath, the man Shanti claimed was her husband in her past life, confirmed that many of the details she provided were accurate, including the name of the child Lugdi had given birth to before her death. Impact of Shanti Devi's story. Shanti Devi's case became one of the most well-known instances of possible reincarnation and was cited by researchers like Ian Stevenson, a prominent psychiatrist and reincarnation investigator. Her story particularly reinforced the belief in reincarnation in India and beyond. Critics and skepticism. Despite the widespread fame of her story, some researchers and psychologists questioned the validity of Shanti Devi's claims. They argued that she might have obtained the information from external sources, or that cultural and religious biases could have influenced her family and surroundings to amplify her statements. Legacy of Shanti Devi. Shanti Devi maintained her claims about her past life until the end of her life. She lived a quiet life in Delhi and rarely appeared in the media afterward. Her story remains a captivating and mysterious case of reincarnation, frequently discussed worldwide. The story of Shanti Devi remains an unresolved mystery. For some, she is a symbol of proof for the reality of reincarnation, while for others, it is merely a fascinating tale deeply rooted in India's cultural and spiritual traditions. Regardless, her case stands as one of the most prominent and intriguing accounts of life after death and reincarnation. Reincarnation in Tibet. Tibet has a unique approach to reincarnation, primarily through the Buddhist tradition of recognizing tulkus, spiritual leaders believed to be the reincarnations of previous lamas. The Dalai Lama system. The Dalai Lama is perhaps the most famous example of institutionalized reincarnation. Each Dalai Lama is considered the reincarnation of the previous one. Upon the death of a Dalai Lama, a search is conducted to find a child who exhibits signs of being the next reincarnation. The search process. The search for a tulku involves rituals and tests, including the child's ability to recognize personal items belonging to the previous Lama. For example, the 14th Dalai Lama reportedly identified objects from his predecessor's life as a child. Significance in Tibetan Buddhism. Reincarnation in Tibet is not only a spiritual concept but also a political one, as the tulkus often hold significant power and influence. Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio, Liaozhai Ziyi, and Reincarnation. The book Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio, originally titled Liaozhai Ziyi, is a remarkable work in classical Chinese literature. It is a collection of short stories written by Pu Songling, a writer from the Qing dynasty, 17th century. These tales blend elements of the supernatural, reincarnation, social critique, and mysticism, and they remain one of the most significant cultural resources for understanding traditional Chinese beliefs about the soul, the afterlife, and rebirth. Reincarnation in Liaozhai Ziyi. One recurring theme in these stories is the concept of the cycle of birth and death, and the possibility of the soul returning to the material world. In this collection, Pu Songling narrates tales in which humans, spirits, and mythical creatures are deeply connected to their past and future lives. Some key aspects of reincarnation depicted in this work include reincarnation as a chance for karmic retribution. Many characters in these stories are reborn in a different form due to their virtuous or sinful deeds in previous lives. This reflects Buddhist and Taoist beliefs about karma and the cycle of samsara. Lovers reunited through reincarnation. Some stories depict spirits who are reborn to fulfill unrequited love from their past lives. These themes are often romantic and deeply touching. Humans reincarnated as animals. In several stories, humans return to life as animals, e.g., foxes or birds. This belief stems from the idea of diverse life forms existing within the reincarnation cycle. Notable tales of reincarnation in Liaozhai Ziyi. The Fox Girl. This story revolves around a man who falls in love with a fox spirit. The fox, who is actually the reincarnated soul of a woman, helps him overcome life's challenges. It highlights the Chinese belief that spirits and reincarnation can guide and protect humans. The Poor Man and His Past Life. This tale narrates the life of a poor man who struggles to survive, but has a dream or mystical vision recalling his previous life as a wealthy merchant. He realizes that his misdeeds in that life led to his current poverty. The Avenging Spirit. This story tells of a woman who is reborn after her death to avenge the injustices she suffered in her previous life. Cultural and spiritual significance of these stories. Reflection of Chinese beliefs. The stories in this collection reflect widely held Chinese views on the cycle of life, death, and the return of the soul. These beliefs are rooted in Buddhism, Taoism, and local traditions. Moral lessons. Liaozhai Ziyi often conveys moral lessons about justice, ethics, and the impact of one's actions on the next life. These messages align with the concepts of karma and reincarnation. Influence on art and popular culture. These stories have inspired numerous works of art, films, and plays in China and beyond. The themes of reincarnation and spirits continue to captivate audiences and remain relevant in modern storytelling. Liaozhai Ziyi is not only a literary masterpiece but also a valuable resource for exploring traditional Chinese beliefs about the soul and reincarnation. Pu Songling, with his eloquent language and imaginative tales, has vividly portrayed these beliefs in a compelling way. This work remains a cultural and spiritual treasure of the East. Research by Ian Stevenson and Jim Tucker. Dr. Stevenson sought to investigate evidence of reincarnation using scientific methods. His research was later continued by Dr. Jim Tucker, his colleague, who published a book titled Life Before Life. Key points of their studies include children who had inexplicable knowledge of past lives, a connection between birthmarks and injuries claimed to have occurred in a previous life, the use of interviews and historical record analysis to verify the claims. Research by Ian Stevenson and Jim Tucker on reincarnation. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a professor of psychiatry at the University of Virginia, was one of the pioneers in the scientific study of reincarnation. He investigated over 3,000 cases of children who claimed to have memories of past lives. His research, characterized by scientific rigor, meticulous documentation, and comparative analysis, sought to provide evidence supporting the possibility of reincarnation. After Stevenson's retirement, his work was continued by Dr. Jim Tucker, his colleague and successor. Tucker, a psychiatrist and professor at the University of Virginia, extended Stevenson's research with a focus on Western children. He published a book titled Life Before Life, which remains one of the most prominent works on reincarnation, providing a detailed scientific explanation of documented cases, methods, and key findings. Children's claims about past lives. Some children, typically between the ages of 2 and 6, would recount detailed memories of their past lives. These accounts often included specific information about people, places, and events that they would not normally have access to. These memories tended to fade as the children grew older. Birthmarks and their connection to past lives. Stevenson recorded numerous cases of birthmarks or physical abnormalities that corresponded to injuries or causes of death from the alleged past lives. Example: a child who claimed to have been killed by a gunshot in a past life had a birthmark at the exact location of the wound. Comparative investigation and documentation. To verify the children's claims, researchers conducted interviews with families, survivors, and individuals connected to the previous lives. Historical records, local reports, and the matching of geographical and temporal details were also part of Stevenson's methodology. Prominent cases documented by Stevenson and Tucker. The case of Swami Prakash. A child in India recalled memories of a past life as a man named Prakash, providing specific details about his family and past life. These claims were later verified by Stevenson's team. The James Leininger. The James Leininger case is one of the most famous and debated examples of reincarnation research, documented by Dr. Jim Tucker, a researcher at the Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia. James, an American boy, began recalling details of a past life as a World War II pilot at the age of 2. He provided accurate information about his experiences, including details about the plane crash he encountered and the names of fellow pilots, which were later confirmed by investigators. The case gained significant attention due to the specificity of the information James provided. His parents, Bruce and Andrea Leininger, sought to understand these memories and eventually discovered significant similarities between the details James described and the life of James Houston Jr., a U.S. Navy pilot who died in 1945. Investigating this case involved interviews with aviation experts, historical research into World War II, and parental observations. These investigations raised profound questions about consciousness, memory, and the possibility of past life continuity. The James Leininger case has spurred both support and skepticism within the scientific community. It remains a crucial subject of reincarnation research, prompting discussions about the nature of the human mind and the potential existence of connections between past lives and personal memories. Children with dual cultural identities. In some cases, children spoke of past lives in entirely different cultures from their own. This phenomenon was particularly striking when the child had no access to information about that culture. Scientific approach of Stevenson and Tucker. Scientific and skeptical methodology. Contrary to popular belief, Stevenson and Tucker were not directly attempting to prove reincarnation. Their focus was on collecting empirical evidence and thorough documentation. While not definitive, these findings have been compelling for many researchers. Criticisms and challenges. Their research faced criticism from skeptics who argued that the evidence could result from suggestion, false memory, or cultural influences. However, the unexplainable details in some cases remain noteworthy. Tucker's focus on the West. While Stevenson primarily focused on Eastern cultures like India and Myanmar, Tucker investigated similar cases in Western countries, particularly in the United States. This shift highlighted the cultural diversity and universality of the phenomenon. The research of Ian Stevenson and Jim Tucker represents one of the most comprehensive and scientific attempts to explore the concept of reincarnation in the modern world. These studies, though controversial, have raised profound questions about the nature of the soul, memory, and the possibility of life after death by presenting evidence of past life memories and physical signs connected to them. As a result, this topic is a blend of philosophical, cultural, and scientific perspectives, and it is difficult to provide a single answer regarding its relationship with reincarnation. Each culture and scientific viewpoint may offer its unique interpretation of this subject.